Every now and then, we as audiences are presented with a piece of work that transcends the test of time and continues to awe generations. Jojo's Bizarre Adventures is one such timeless anime classic that's established itself as a cult classic and a pop culture icon whose influence is impossible to escape, especially for an anime fan. The story was illustrated and written by Hirohiko Araki and was serialized in the Weekly Shounen Jump magazine from 1987 to 2004. It was then transferred to the seinen-focused Ultra magazine in 2005, where it continued to be serialized until its end. As of now, the series has 9 arcs, each containing a protagonist who has inherited the nickname Jojo. This concept of changing protagonists in every arc can seem somewhat confusing for a first-time viewer, but once you actually get into the meat and bones of this series, you get used to it pretty fast. What it lets the mangaka do is give us a plethora of interesting characters while allowing him to craft such a detailed saga that it transcends generations. The use of the onomatopoeic style of writing, flamboyant fashion, and over-the-top poses make JoJo's Bizarre Adventure immediately recognizable and has let it carve out a place amongst some of the greatest animes to have ever come out. Oftentimes, when talking about the best anime series of all time, the big three are often undisputed. But if you were to look at the influence of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure on anime and pop culture, it wouldn't be a stretch to say that it has had as much of an impact, if not more, than any of the big three. The show is the perfect marriage of Western idiosyncrasy with supernatural powers, which, along with everything that we've spoken about earlier, explains why the series has sold over 130 million copies worldwide and has had numerous anime adaptations since its inception. While the series is mostly dominated by its male characters, in today's video, we're going to be discussing a descendant of Jonathan Joestar, who is also the only female protagonist of the series. Yes, we're indeed going to be talking about the one and only Jolyne Kujo. As her surname suggests, she's the daughter of Jotaro Kujo, who is arguably the most popular protagonist in the series. She appears in the 6th story arc of the series, named Stone Ocean, which starts with her being framed for a murder by one of Dio's arc cronies. Her story, however, begins long before the events of the story of the Stone Ocean arc, and we're going to be discussing all of that and more in this video, from her origins, appearance, personality, powers, to everything else you need to know about this powerhouse of a character. So strap in for yet another marvelous anime video as we take you through this colorful yet gritty world of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. So let's get right into it. Origin and early days. Jolyne Kujo was born to the famous Jotaro Kujo and an unknown woman of American origin in 1992. Ever since her early days, Jolyne has an extremely strained relationship with her father due to him constantly being absent from her life as she was growing up. Little did she know this wasn't because her father loved her less, but quite the contrary. He was absent because he was out fighting evil in order to protect his family. Regardless of his noble reasons, this meant that Jotaro was constantly abroad for various adventures, and the reality was that Jolyne missed a father figure during her formative years. One of the examples of this was when she was 6 years old and suffering from intense fever, Jotaro would not return to Japan to care for her. Her relationship with her father would only worsen after he would divorce her mother. By the time she was 14, lacking guidance, Jolyne would already have been mixed up with the wrong group of friends. She would become a full-fledged delinquent, channeling her resentment in the wrong direction. Her adolescence was marked with criminal activities ranging from grand theft auto to other petty crimes. One time, she found a wallet on the ground with only $5 inside. However, due to a misunderstanding, the owner of the wallet attempted to contact the police, thinking that Jolyne had stolen it from him. Panicking due to what was transpiring, she would stop the man's car and threaten him to end the call. However, after hearing police sirens, Jolyne would then steal the man's car and would go on to promptly crash it. Luckily for her, she would be released from custody as she was still a minor at that point. Jolyne would listen to the conversation between her mother and father regarding that incident. After learning that Jotaro would instead travel to Tokyo instead of where she was, her belief in him not caring about her would be further strengthened. With her brief brush with the law and Jotaro's lack of commitment towards her all but confirmed in her mind, Jolyne dives headlong into a life of complete delinquency as she joins a motorcycle gang. With this motorcycle gang, named the Hell Riders, she engaged in even more crime, which consisted primarily of carjacking and motorcycle theft. At some point in her life, it seems that she left the gang for some unknown reason and cleaned up her act. She would start working towards attending university and began dating a boy named Romeo Jisso, who belonged to a decently well-off family. In December 2011, she and Romeo were on a romantic drive, and while they were having a moment, their car hit a pedestrian who died on the spot. Despite Jolyne's initial decision to inform the police about the situation, Romeo deterred her from doing so. However, she was apprehended by the authorities after her fingerprints were found on the car, and she was charged with murder caused by driving under the influence. This is where we are introduced to her initially and where her story arc begins. Personality and characterization. Jolyne's character is that of a fiery, strong-willed woman who's a little rough around the edges and whose heart is in the right place. A lot of her character and personality were heavily molded by the lack of her father's presence in her life. She's extremely rebellious and has a snappy disposition towards older people due to this. One can also attribute her delinquencies to her trying to garner her father's attention. As in the case of neglected young adults, most of their problematic actions stem from a lack of attention and their need to attain it in any way possible. Her joining the gang and committing all those crimes was a desperate plea for attention from her father. Ironically, it's only when she decides to get clean and actually gets convicted falsely that her father turns up in her life. Although she draws the line at taking another's life, Jolyne is extremely brutal and aggressive, which her fellow inmates would find out to their peril. She doesn't kill, but her victims are often left with some important parts of their body missing. Jolyne also holds grudges extremely long and especially enjoys repaying wrongs done to her tenfold. Throughout the series, we see everyone from Romeo, who has his tongue cut up, all the way to alligators, feel her wrath for their past transgressions. Another defining characteristic of her personality is her fierce loyalty and determination, no matter what the odds. Despite initially having a strained relationship with her father, after learning of Dio's scheme and her lineage, she immediately embraces her heritage and takes up the gauntlet against her family's ancient foe. Despite suffering several setbacks, both physically and emotionally, she continues to stand up to her diabolical adversaries in her pursuit of vengeance and to end the menace of Dio's cronies once and for all. Her determination can be seen when she sets fire to her own body in order to give Rikiel an opening to attack. When not slaying her enemies and being a total badass, Jolyne does have a softer side. Thanks to her having to fish for approval outside of her family, the positive thing about this was that she developed a very extroverted personality. Jolyne is able to easily mesh with all kinds of people, irrespective of their background, and has the ability to inspire loyalty and raise their morale owing to her dashing personality. When she's with her friends, it would be easy to mistake her for any other ordinary young girl enjoying herself. Her extroverted nature is further seen when she admits to masturbating, which shocked a number of viewers at the time. She is, in fact, the first JoJo who admits to doing so, making her quite the libertine. Overall, the story arc never would have been possible with any of the other JoJos in her place, which the mangaka understood perfectly. Powers and attributes. As is the case in JoJo's Bizzare Adventures, the primary supernatural ability is called the Stand. This is a manifestation of an individual's life force and usually appears as a humanoid that has several fantastical powers. Jolyne Kujo's abilities are awakened when she comes into contact with a fragment of the mythical arrow known for awakening stand powers thanks to a gift from her father. Stonefree, close range strength and durability. Stonefree is the name of the stand used by Jolyne Kujo, and it grants her the ability to transform her body into strings, which allows her to access a variety of abilities. It is humanoid in appearance and seems to be wearing a pair of sunglasses that cover her ridged eyelids. It has 4 blade-like objects that run parallel to each other across its face, from the back of the neck to the jaw. The stand also wears a pair of shoulder pads and several patches on its body, which seem to reveal some sort of muscular fibers within its body. Outside of its ability to transform itself and its user into strings, Stonefree is also a formidable close-range stand. The fact that it allows Jolyne to transform her body parts at will provides so much versatility regarding power and positioning in a fight. This makes Jolyne's fighting style extremely unpredictable. Despite its strength initially, Jolyne believed its power to be subpar, with strength that was barely able to crush a coin. Later during the show, this same stand's punch is said to contain the same amount of power as that of a small meteor. We're given the impression that Stonefree's physical prowess only keeps growing as the series progresses. One other testament to this stand's durability is the fact that, thanks to it, Jolyne is practically immune to damage from any conventional handheld weaponry like blades and guns. Supreme flexibility and stealth. Thanks to the stand granting her the ability to unravel and bind her body at will, Jolyne is granted an insane amount of flexibility. This also grants her invisibility, as the strings are invisible to non-stand users. She can also use this ability to hide herself in tight spaces, whether it's under the shadows or inside someone's mouth. This makes her stealth abilities unmatched. In combat, she's easily able to dodge projectiles or blows if she doesn't want to tank the hit by unraveling herself before the hit lands. The stand is flexible not just in terms of movement, but also in terms of application. For instance, she can use the strings to spy on others, as her strings are able to conduct vibrations to relay auditory messages. It can also be used as a slashing weapon, as seen when she cuts the ear off of a prison guard with it. The fact that the strings are invisible to non-stand users makes it doubly lethal to them. We've also seen instances where Jolyne uses the strings to pickpocket someone. Individually, the strings aren't very tensile, but Jolyne can weave a number of them together to make an extremely strong rope. The most unique ability in the series. One of the characteristics of a stand is that it's a projection, despite its impact being very much real. This is also the reason that one can't touch another stand directly under normal circumstances. However, Jolyne Kujo is a rare exception to this rule thanks to her stand, Stonefree. Her stand allows her body to turn into strings that are also able to integrate themselves directly into her body. This means that she becomes one with her stand quite literally. Due to this, Jolyne is able to touch the stands of others and even harm them directly. Appearance. Jolyne, just like other members of her family, has an athletic build and is fairly tall. She has striking eyes with a piercing gaze and blue irises. Jolyne's hairstyle is unique as she wears it in 2 layers, including 2 buns on her head and a shorter layer that runs down her neck. The front of her hair is bleached blonde and her buns are covered with a green ribbon. Common with all those who inherit the Joestar bloodline, she has a small star-shaped birthmark on the back of her left shoulder near her neck. Jolyne also has a pair of butterfly wings tattooed on the upper side of her left forearm with a dagger pointing downwards superimposed on it. This motif also appears on her outfits quite a bit. As the series progresses, her build becomes increasingly more athletic than the first time we're introduced to her. Her choice of outfit is usually dark green with a web-like print all over it, which she wears in different styles throughout the series. According to a survey conducted during the series' 30th anniversary edition, it was revealed that Jolyne's hairstyle was the most popular among the fans and is the one that people want to try the most. Overall, her appearance and style truly make her stand out on her Bizzare adventure, just like all the JoJos before her. Marvelous verdict! It's hard to believe that at one point we might never have gotten Jolyne Kujo as a character due to Hirohiko's editor believing that the audience wasn't ready to see a female protagonist go through the ordeals that we see her face during her story. However, Hirohiko insisted that it was precisely because of these ordeals that it had to be a female protagonist. The complexity of her character and her growth throughout the story arc has been praised by critics and fans alike, as underneath all the flamboyancy, there is a much more human tale of a daughter and father being told. Her growth from an attention-starved youth to a determined young adult who has taken it upon herself to shoulder the burdens of her family while trying to find peace with her father is extremely beautiful. Hers is also a journey of redemption where she breaks out of her shell, and despite the apprehensions cast upon her by individuals who share the same thought as Araki's editor, she proves to the world that she's indeed worthy of carrying the name Joestar. Hirohiko also believed that thanks to the success of the gorgeous Irene manga, the audience was ready for a female lead who could take on all the painful challenges that lay in store for her. Overall, Jolyne Kujo has more than earned the right to be considered one of the best protagonists in a series full of great protagonists. She brings a breath of fresh air and panache to the show that could really only be possible through her. Time really does fly when we're talking about anime, especially JoJo. Unfortunately, we don't have the powers of Star Platinum or the world to stop time, and thus we've come to the end of our video today. We plan to cover a lot more of JoJo's Bizzare adventure on our channel, so be sure to turn the notifications on. We'd also like to hear from you about who your favorite Joestar is in the comments down below. Thanks for sticking with us to the end of this video. We hope to see you in the next one. If you liked our content, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to us if you haven't already. Otherwise, stay safe and stay marvelous.